Welcome back, you filthy exiles. So, I've got a couple videos coming out over the next few days. Obviously, we can't do any real build guides or anything like that for 3.17 because we just have no idea, but I've got some speculations as to what nerfs might be coming, so watch out for that. I've got about 5 that I think are coming to the league. Hint, hint, Aurora, Aegis Aurora, Giga tanking is definitely going to get a smack, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, in the meantime, I've been playing around on my standard account. This is actually my... Whoop, better turn that audio down, otherwise that's gonna bloody mess things up. So this is actually my standard account character that I actually started all the way back in the beta. This is the character that I played in beta. So every time I get to the end of a league, I usually load this character up and just start throwing anything and everything at it to get different builds to work and understand different mechanics. As you do with your standard account, I've got a trove of gear and can pretty much self gear and fund anything that I need in standard. So anyway, what am I doing here? So I got the idea to play Conch Totems because I haven't played Conch or consecrated Path Totems in the past, and then I went, hey, wait a minute, Tectonic Slam is an underloved skill. Why don't I play Tectonic Slam instead? Tectonic Slam Totems. And so far, honestly, you would have seen in the B-roll, it's not bad. Like, I'm not even running the Iron Fortress on this build yet, which will get it up to 2.2 million DPS. And then with some further sort of minning and maxing, I can get it somewhere in the vicinity of about 4.3 million DPS. I'll put 2 trees in the description, one that I've pulled down and modified, and the other which I've built and spec'd into this character with the current gearing that I've got. Couple of things I'd note. So some of the things to keep in mind with building a totem build in particular, it's all based on building up the effect of your other supporting totems. So in particular with your Ancestral Protector and your Ancestral War Chief, there's a few synergies that make your DPS sort of skyrocket with this build. So as it stands right now, I'll just sort of show that this builds at about 1.76 million, where are we at, Shaper or Cyrus DPS? Cyrus DPS. And that's nothing crazy here, like, we do have Life Tap, we do have Onslaught, we do have Frenzy Charges from Blood Rage, we are in Blood Stance, we're fighting bosses, we're generally hit recently, full enemies on full life, we'll talk about that shortly, and they're usually ignited because I'm not using elemental, whatever it is, can't remember. So anyway, basically what that means is we do pretty good damn damage. Now, or at least reasonably good damage. So a couple of the synergies that sort of build into building up the effectiveness of totems in particular, we'll just go back to the main tree in here, is Ironwood. Sorry, not Ironwood. We're talking Panopticon. Sorry. So this increases the effective buff of ancestral totems by 50%, for example. What this basically means is like the standard buffs that your standard War Chief and your Protector totems do, it'll just amp that up. So if it does 19% attack speed, well then it's going to do even more, 50% increased on attack speed on top of that, so on and so on. Same with running Ancestral Guidance on both medium cluster jewels here. So basically 30% increased buff effectiveness of your totems each time you run that. So there's a few synergies in this build that you just need to be aware of to make it sort of work. And that's basically how totem builds work. So for the longest amount of time, I spent a lot of time sort of mucking around trying to figure out totems. And I was like, holy shit, this is actually really, really simple once you understand that basic concept. A couple of the other things that buff up the damage in this particular build is obviously Brutus Lead Sprinkler. You'll notice that we have 1240 strength right now, and that's not near enough strength. We want to get to like 1500 as a minimum, and that's just going to be through minning and maxing. So what the Brutus Lead Sprinkler on this build does is it gives you 4 to 7 fire damage, 2 attacks per every 10 strength. So that multiplied by buff effects from your other totems and any other modifiers means you're going to have like a shit ton of damage, which is why the Brutus Lead Sprinkler is pretty much the best totem build item, and it's dirt cheap. And if you can get a cull implicit on it, even better. The other thing that you'll need on this particular build to get it to work is going to be your Crown of Eyes, which isn't really used on any other builds, just on this build. Basically means increases and reductions to spell damage also apply to attacks at 150% of their value, and this actually synergizes with the use of Iron Will. So strength bonus applies to all spells as well, and then that then converts through the Crown of Eyes and then increases the attack damage of your totems. So that's pretty much the main synergies that are going on in this build that sort of make it tick. And that's why we get to, a reasonable level of DPS, be it not, the best amount of DPS that we could get to right now, which I'll explain even more. So anyway, let's go through gearing and then, sort of have a talk through that. All right, so basic gearing on this character, very straightforward. Brutus Lead Sprinkler, no brainer. It does need a shield that gives you +1 to totems. Now, interestingly enough, to get the craft for this, if you can't just get a shield that's rolled with this, and I think you can get shields from Delve and whatnot, you actually need to do this through the Syndicate missions, and I think it's Aisling and the research path, which is where you need to target, and then basically it'll let you craft that. Alternatively, you can always see if somebody's selling shields with open open veiled mods on them, or unrevealed veiled mods, and take a punt that way too. So there's a few ways to try and do that, and I'll do a video about that actually before we do 3.17, because that's how I got my ring modifiers, for example, or my bench crafts for rings. So outside of that, Brutus Lead Sprinkler, shield with +1 to maximum number of totems. As you'll notice, my shield is garbage. So we're running around with a pretty shit-ass shield. It's not min-maxed. And because of standard, anything better is going to cost you, an arm and a leg. So Ascendencies, really important with Shaman's Dominion. And what Shaman's Dominion does is it increases the crit, obviously, of your totems. So, pretty good item. Crown of Eyes. This I'm just using like a stacked chest with strength, or as many resistances and as much life as I could possibly get on a chest, and this was just one that I had ticking around in my cache, and it was pretty good. But I'll talk about the one that we need once we get past this section. I am using Meganord's Vise, just 100 flat strength, really easy way to stack strength on this build, and obviously a synthesized heavy belt, which you won't get until like later in the league usually, which has implicit 10% increased strength roll. These drop in Heist, and they're actually not too uncommon to get, so that's one way you can get your strength up as well. This is not a good roll on it, but it's not bad either. And then obviously Alberon's War Parts are a really cheap and easy way to get a 16% minimum roll on, or a 16% roll on strength. This can go up to 18%. Rings, strength, resistances, and non-channel skills have negative mana cost. That's really important, because otherwise this just isn't going to be sustainable at 30 mana per, cast. Or per totem cast. Same on the other ring, and obviously I've used the Metamorph attribute crafting catalyst to be able to get the strength up even further. Same with that on the amulet and on the belt. Pretty much that's it for gearing. And then flasks, I am running a Cinder Swallow, I am running an Eternal Flask with bleed immunity, corrupted blood immunity, Rumi's Concoction, and a Quicksilver Flask and a Wise Oak. Now, if you can get better flasks than this, you can, but this is sort of working for me right now. Now, the chest piece that I have in here, be it that we're at 1.7 mil DPS already, is not the chest piece that I actually need to be using. Obviously, Standard League, and I burn all my currency in League. The Iron Fortress is actually what you need, and the reason why you need the Iron Fortress, number one, shitload of health you get from it. Number two, shitload of armor you get from it. Number three, strength damage bonus instead grants 3% increase melee physical damage per 10 strength. So if you strength stacked, which is what you're going to be doing, you're going to have, per every 10 strength, 3% increase melee phys. And if we predict that on the tree, for example, and this is built into the tree, that gets us to 2.14 million DPS. And you know what? That's not too bad, considering. That's per totem. So if we drop 2 Consecrated Path Totem, two Tectonic Slam Totems, that's close to 4.2 million DPS, give or take. Alright, so totem sequencing in this build, before we talk about anything else, is really important. So you're going to fight bosses and you think you just drop down like 3 totems, right? And you'd be like, oh yeah, okay, this will do the job. No, this is actually going to be the least damage that you're going to put out. Your best way to tackle this is to drop your protector totems, your war chief totem, and then slap 2 of your consecrated, 2 of your tectonic slam totems, sorry. And this applies for any Earthbreaker build that you run. You'll have 5 totems up at all times. Now, this can get a little tedious when you're fighting a boss and you're not outputting enough damage. And this is just something that will change as you scale up. Usually, you'll be able to mince bosses. As you will see in the B-roll, this is still very much in development. So, you know, it's just not doing the damage that it needs to do yet, but I will get it there. If I have the patience over the next 2 weeks, that is. But that's really important to remember. Also, we'll talk about gems next, and I'll talk about how to set out the gems as well, because it's important that you separate the Protector and the War Chief totems up. Gem setups. So in the Brutus, Blood Rage, Enduring Cry, Increased Duration, we're just going to have it so that we run around and map Enduring Cry to our move button, and then obviously just self-cast Blood Rage, the easiest way to go about it. Increased Duration, because we want that to last as long as we need it to last, because we don't want to keep popping it. In the helm, I'm running Blood and Sand, Ancestral War Chief, Enlighten, and I know I'm running Enlighten. You're not going to be able to do this necessarily out of Standard League straight away in a League Start scenario or anything like that, but you know, I'm just getting this working so I can see it work. And I do run Clarity to sustain mana, so even though we have so much reduction in mana, we still have to manage mana down, and that's the best way to do it, is to have a bit of Clarity in there as well. So you'll also notice War Chief is separated out from, we'll talk about it soon, Ancestral Protector, which is in my gloves. And the Protector totems I've got, they're not Phantasmal. If you really wanted to go hardcore, you get Phantasmal. It means the quality of the totem will convert into additional attack speed, and that's going to buff up all of the rest of your totems, but Phantasmals are not cheap. So if you're just running standard Protector totems, multiple totems, so when we cast we get 2, and then when we cast our War Chief, we get another totem, because Protectors give you 3 totems, because it's base 1 plus 2. And then you get your other 2 totems, which are here, and then that synergizes with your Ancestral Bond. That's pretty much the setup there, and I've got Combustion and Culling Strike on that setup as well. So basically, the Protected totems are going to proc and then try and cull, which is going to do a little bit more damage as well. In the chest, I'm running Tectonic Slam, Awaken Fire Penetration, which is cheap every single league. Increased critical damage support, Earthbreaker, elemental damage with attacks, not Awaken. So this can get more damage out of applying Awaken, and increased critical strikes. The reason why I'm running increased critical strikes and critical damage for this particular iteration of the build, this actually gives me the best damage output. Now you might want to run, you know, in other builds I've seen, if I look at the tree that I was working off originally, Conk Effect and Elemental Focus, but I actually liked stacking crit, because having more crit and more crit multi is going to give you more damage a lot quicker, and it's just more efficient. If you invest into crit, you're going to get the benefit of using crit. It's that simple. That's pretty much it. I've got a level 21 level 21 Tectonic Slam. Now, if you can get +1 on anything here, then by all means do it, but that's not necessarily going to be easy. In the shield, running Leap Slam, faster attacks, and Life Tap, just because I don't want to have to rely on mana. Not that I would anyway. And actually, I probably could switch that out for Fortify. And yeah, I wouldn't even have any mana cost actually, because let's have a look. Yeah, it exceeds mana cost. So we could chuck Fortify on that actually, and we might do a version 2 of this video. And then in the boots, level 1 Vitality, Anger, Enlighten again, and Precision. There's a reason why, or level 3 Vitality, there's a reason why I'm running a low level Vitality, and I'll talk about that when I get into the tree, which will be in the next section. Alright, the fun part, Pathing Tree. Alright, this is where we're at so far. So pretty much we'll come down and get Warrior's Blood, Born to Fight. No, we're not going to sell that because it's Standard League, and that item, I don't know where the hell it is, because I have 1,000 stash tabs. And then we'll come and get the Strength nodes up here, down to Iron Will, Constitution. You want this small jewel node here. You'll come down, you want to pick up this wheel here. As you'll see, this is incomplete because I don't have the right large cluster over here. We'll come down, we'll grab, we'll go up, all the way up, and we want to get Ancestral Bond as soon as we can, so we can have 2 totems as we level up. Pain Forger, you're going to get Purity of Flesh. You'll get this other socket here. You're going to get Devotion here because you want that sweet, sweet life. And then you come down, you'll pick up Disemboweling because we've got to start stacking crit somewhere in this build. Critical Mastery, 25% increased critical multiplier against unique enemies is really important. That's going to increase your overall damage. Barbarism and Life Mastery, so 10% extra life, get your life pool up. We want to get that life pool even higher. Now, the reason why we run Vitality is because we do have a Watcher's Iron here that does do 114.9 life per second when we run Vitality. So level 1 Vitality means we get 114 life per second, and we don't have to burn all our mana up in reserving things. Alright, and on this as well, I've got 50% increased fire damage with effect when affected by anger, and we run anger, so that's good. We'll come down, pick up Juggernaut. We're going to get Utmost Might here because we're strength stacking, and also 5% increased attributes. That's going to give us more strength to stack. I haven't played around with 5 strength per allocated mastery passive yet versus 5% attributes, but 5% attributes is also going to give you enough to run the rest of your gear. For example, getting enough int to run Crown of Eyes is a real pain in the ass because you need 154 on a Chieftain, which is pretty hard to get because Chieftain is a little bit of a dum-dum character. And then we'll come down, pick up Bloodless, Call to Arms so we can run our constant enduring cry. We're going to grab Lava Lash because we're running fire. Yo, no brainer there. Fire Mastery, 1% fire damage per 20 strength. We're strength stacking, so this synergizes really well. And then we'll come across, we'll get Dismembering. We want to get this Critical Mastery, 150% increased critical strike chance against enemies at full life. So when your Tectonic Slams roll out, they just crit straight away. We do run Hematophagy. Oh god, I can never pronounce it. Because we leech with our Ascendancy, this is going to increase our damage and increase our leech rate. And really importantly, Golem's Blood, and we're going to pick up all the nodes that move in from the attack speed side all the way down to Ironwood, and then the Totem Mastery for 60% increased global critical strike if you've summoned a totem. That's pretty much the tree. Oh, and sorry. When we look at the large cluster here, so Veteran Defender, Fuel the Fight, Martial Prowess, really important. And specifically, Ancestral Echo and Ancestral Guidance, and Sleepless Sentries and Ancestral Guidance. Ancestral Guidance is really important in this build. It amps up the effect of your Protector and your War Chief totems. Now, as far as... Bloody nose is going off. Sorry, guys. As far as the rest of your jewels, I do have a Replica's Conqueror's Efficiency to get my mana cost down by 9. The other thing is I also have every jewel basically has Resistances, Life, and Critical Strike multi. And that's pretty much all you need to target for every single jewel in this build to be able to get it to do what you want it to do. Now, I do have a couple of other things I want to do in this build before I'm done sort of minning and maxing shit out of it, but that's going to be another video. But that's pretty much it for the tree. Now, Ascendancy wise, let's just have a look here. You'll grab Tukahama's War Herald first. Then you'll grab Moon's Presence. I'm not going to say the first word because I can't bloody pronounce it. And then you'll grab Ramako's Sunlight. This is going to give you fire penetration and 25% chance to ignite. So hence you're going to ignite and get up to that 1.7 mil DPS really easily without Iron Fortress. And then you're going to get Hinakora's Death Fury, which is going to give you 1% of fire damage to leechless life, and you're going to cover rare or unique enemies in Ash for 10 seconds on hit. You also get 10% increased strength, which again stacks more strength. So this is going to beef up your damage, give you more survivability, do more damage to enemies. That's pretty much the tree as an overall. Yeah, that's tree-wise. I always used to forget this part, but I remember these days. So you're going to run Soul of Lunaris. At least that's what I'm running for now. If you're fighting bosses, though, Soul of Solaris just seems like a better pick, doesn't it? And then you're going to run Soul of Tukahama. This is going to give you, stationary damage reduction. Now, you could run something else in here, depending on what you want to do. Entirely up to you. Whatever works for you, ultimately, at the end of the day, or however you need to balance your build, is the way that you go about it. So that's pretty much it. So viability for 3.17. To put it into perspective, there's 3 people that ran Tectonic Slam in the whole of last league. At least that's what's in that's what's in POE Ninja right now. Totem builds, as far as like melee, you know, these Earthbreaker totems, nobody's really playing them, but surprisingly, they're pretty damn powerful and they scale really well. The gear isn't overtly expensive either, except for like the Iron Fortress. That's pretty much the hardest item to get for this build. Now, is this build like ultra fast? It can be. It can destroy bosses if you push it up. I've seen them go up to like 12 million DPS per like totem. So there's every potential that they can go up, and if you min-max it the right way, be super powerful and just super tanky. But just an underutilized sort of build set. But anyway, do I think this is going to get nerfed for next league? Unlikely, but who the hell really knows at this stage? This is just a planning video and a testing video. I'll put that as a disclaimer. Not making any sort of advocacy that this is going to be viable for next league, because we just don't know what's going to happen after 3.15. Who knows what they're going to do? Hopefully they don't wreck these builds. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Anyway, don't forget to like and sub to the channel. And I'll have more videos coming out. I do need to take a bit of a break from vid production for the next week before they start releasing announcement stuff, just so I can have a bit of a break before we get back into this busy season of putting out a lot of content and build guides and shit like that. But anyway, until next time, have a good one, and